There is something strange about being human. For almost all of your species' existence, the world was not warm, comfortable, or predictable. It was cold. Not the kind of cold that makes you reach for a jacket. The kind that erases forests, freezes rivers, turns entire continents into deserts of ice. And yet somehow, a fragile animal with no claws, no fur, no sharp teeth, survived. Why? Because if you placed a modern human naked into the center of an Ice Age winter, they would likely die within hours. So how did ancient humans survive thousands of years in a world that seemed designed to kill them? The answer is stranger than simple survival. Because the Ice Age did not just test humanity. In many ways, it created it. Imagine waking up 20,000 years ago. The air burns your lungs. The ground is hard as stone. The horizon is dominated by glaciers so massive they look like frozen mountain ranges stretching beyond sight. Sea levels are lower. Entire pieces of the modern world do not exist yet. You could walk from Siberia into North America. The English Channel is mostly dry land. Huge portions of northern Europe are buried beneath ice sheets more than 2 miles thick. This was not a brief winter. This was the world. And despite what many people imagine, ancient humans were not constantly hiding in caves waiting for warmer weather. They were moving. Hunting. Exploring. Adapting. Thriving in places that seem impossible even today. That is where our first assumption breaks apart. When we hear the words, Ice Age, we imagine a planet completely frozen. But ice ages are not endless snowstorms. They are long periods when Earth's climate becomes colder overall. Even during the coldest phases, many regions remained habitable. Grassland stretched across huge areas. Mammoths wandered in enormous herds. Woolly rhinoceroses crossed frozen plains. Predators followed. And humans followed them. The landscape looked alien, yet full of life. Life always finds a way to occupy the spaces left behind by change. But surviving there required something unusual. Something no other animal possessed to the same degree. Adaptability. A polar bear survives because it is built for cold. Humans survive because they are built for change. That difference would become one of the most important evolutionary advantages ever produced by nature. Behind the surface of Ice Age survival lies a remarkable biological story. The human body is not especially suited for extreme cold. Compared to Arctic animals, we lose heat quickly. We lack thick insulating fur. Our skin is exposed. Our young require years of care. From a purely physical perspective, humans should have struggled. So what changed? The answer begins with the brain. Over hundreds of thousands of years, human ancestors evolved larger and more complex brains capable of abstract thinking, planning, and cooperation. These abilities transformed survival itself. Instead of adapting through biology alone, humans began adapting through culture. Culture became a survival technology. A wolf inherits its hunting behavior largely through instinct. A human can inherit knowledge accumulated across generations. How to build shelter. How to track animals. How to preserve food. How to create clothing. Knowledge could evolve faster than genes. This changed everything. Archaeological evidence shows that Ice Age humans crafted sophisticated clothing from animal hides and furs. Bone needles discovered at ancient sites suggest that people were sewing fitted garments tens of thousands of years ago. This was not primitive improvisation. It was engineering. Layers trapped air. Fur retained heat. Boots protected feet from frozen ground. A person wrapped in carefully designed animal skins effectively carried a portable climate system around their body. Fire played an equally critical role. But fire was more than warmth. It extended daylight. Protected camps from predators. Cooked food. Allowed social bonding. And perhaps most importantly, it created places where information could be shared. Around ancient fires, knowledge survived. Stories became instruction manuals. Memories became maps. Experience became collective intelligence. Every generation inherited the lessons of the previous one. And those lessons often meant the difference between life and death. The Ice Age was not survived by individuals. It was survived by networks. Humans hunted together. Shared resources. Protected children. Cared for injured members. This cooperation created a survival strategy stronger than any claw or fawn. One person alone is vulnerable. A tribe becomes resilient. This is one reason humans spread across environments that should have been impossible. The real superpower was never strength. It was collective knowledge. Picture a small band of hunters crossing a frozen plain somewhere in what is now northern Eurasia. The wind cuts across open grasslands. Snow drifts across the ground. Ahead, mammoths move like living mountains. The hunters understand migration routes passed down through generations. They know where rivers freeze first. They know where shelter can be found during storms. Every step is guided by knowledge accumulated across centuries. One mistake could mean death. But one successful hunt could feed dozens of people. Across thousands of years, countless groups repeated this process. Some failed. Some disappeared entirely. Others adapted. Nature was constantly running experiments. Entire populations encountered different climates, landscapes, and challenges. Those who discovered effective strategies survived long enough to pass them on. Human history is often portrayed as a straight line. In reality, it resembles a branching river. Many paths ended. A few continued. And every surviving path contributed something to the species that exists today. Meanwhile, humans were spreading farther than ever before. Into Europe. Into Asia. Into Australia. Eventually into the Americas. Each migration demanded new solutions. Different climates required different technologies. Different animals required different hunting methods. Different landscapes demanded different ways of thinking. The Ice Age was not a single challenge. It was thousands of challenges layered together. And humans kept adapting. But this is not the full story. Because survival was never guaranteed. The Ice Age nearly erased humanity. Genetic evidence suggests that at certain points, human populations may have dropped to astonishingly low numbers. Perhaps only a few thousand breeding individuals remained. Think about that. Every city. Every nation. Every language. Every person alive today. All emerging from populations small enough to disappear. A few harsh winters. A few failed migrations. A few ecological disasters. History could have ended before it truly began. The survival of our species was not inevitable. It was fragile. Accidental. Balanced constantly between success and extinction. And there is another paradox. The same Ice Age conditions that threatened humanity may have accelerated human innovation. Pressure forces adaptation. Scarcity encourages creativity. Unpredictability rewards intelligence. The harshness of the environment may have shaped the very traits that later allowed civilization to emerge. In a strange way, the cold may have helped create the modern mind. The enemy became the teacher. The obstacle became the catalyst. The threat became the architect. And perhaps that is one of the deepest patterns in nature. Life does not grow despite challenges. Often, it grows because of them. When we look back at Ice Age humans, it is tempting to see them as distant. Primitive. Separate from us. But they were us. Their fears were familiar. Their hopes were familiar. They worried about food, family, safety, and the future. They watched children sleep beside fires. They mourned the dead. They wondered what waited beyond the next horizon. The distance between their world and ours is smaller than it seems. The technologies changed. The emotions did not. And maybe that is the real lesson hidden beneath the ice. Human beings are not remarkable because we conquered nature. We never truly did. We remain dependent on forces larger than ourselves. Climate. Ecosystems. Geology. Chance.
It's incredible.
What makes humanity unusual is something quieter. We adapt. Again and again. We inherit knowledge from people we will never meet. We build upon solutions created by countless forgotten lives. Every shelter, every tool, every scientific breakthrough is part of an unbroken chain stretching back to ancient fires glowing against Ice Age darkness. You are connected to those people. Not metaphorically. Literally. Their survival became your existence. Their decisions echo inside your body. Their victories pulse through your DNA. And that leads back to the strange question we began with. How did ancient humans survive the ice ages? Not because they were the strongest creatures alive. Not because the world was kind to them. Not because survival was guaranteed. They survived because they learned. They shared. They adapted. And against impossible odds, they kept going. Which means that every human alive today is carrying evidence of one extraordinary fact. Somewhere in the frozen darkness of prehistory, when the world seemed least hospitable to life, enough people found a way to endure. And perhaps the strangest thought of all is this. The glaciers are gone. The mammoths are gone. The frozen plains have vanished. But the survivor they created is still here. Listening. Right now, as you sit in a warm room, surrounded by technologies beyond anything those ancient people could imagine, your body is still carrying traces of their journey. Your hands, capable of shaping tools. Your eyes, trained to search for patterns. Your mind, constantly predicting what comes next. These are not modern inventions. They are ancient gifts. Each one was tested in worlds of uncertainty long before cities existed. Long before writing. Long before history had a name. Sometimes we imagine progress as a ladder. One generation climbing higher than the last. But human history may be closer to a relay race. Every generation receives something fragile from the ones before it. Knowledge. Experience. Warnings. Dreams. Then, for a brief moment, they carry it forward before passing it on. The people of the Ice Age did the same. They could never have imagined satellites orbiting Earth. They could never have imagined skyscrapers rising above clouds. They could never have imagined that one day their descendants would walk on the moon. Yet every achievement began with them. With a fire protected from the wind. With a successful hunt. With a child taught how to survive one more winter. History rarely remembers those moments. But civilization is built from countless invisible victories. And many of those victories happened in silence. There were no monuments on the frozen plains. No newspapers recording events. No cameras preserving faces. Entire lifetimes vanished without leaving names behind.